This is a cannonball. A fake cannonball, to be exact. A faux cannonball. A simulacrum of a cannonball. And a crap simulacrum at that. It is a rough copy of a cannonball, rendered in plaster, with an approximate diameter of 12 centimeters and a weight of 679.5 grams. It is unremarkable in terms of form, texture, and color. It has been placed in an urban no man's land, the area between the forces of nature and progress. An area under fire from both sides, so to speak. It stands on a road leading somewhere unimportant from somewhere equally unimportant. A to B, B to A, or N to K for that matter. Let's imagine that the events which led to the cannonball arriving at its current coordinates in both space and time are important enough for anyone to be interested. Indeed, interested enough for this scene to be worth documenting. Perhaps the documentation of just such a cannonball in just such an environment at just such a time is of various variants of importance to various variants of people. Whatever this cannonball may or may not embody, stand for, symbolize, or say, it is conceivable that any manipulation of the current state of affairs would alter the specifics of the situation in an inconceivable number of ways. Say, if the cannonball were to be removed. We are now faced with a desolate, unspecific landscape, in which the road would be the main protagonist, were it not for the cannonball-shaped hole, a gaping chasm of a hole. The scene has been altered even though it is in no way evident or traceable from what we see before us now. The scene has been staged, even faked in a way, via the subtraction of an element. Our perception of the situation would be rather different were we to have only seen this empty landscape. But we cannot unsee the cannonball. It remains burnt onto the retinas of our memory. In fact, the blatant lack of cannonball draws our attention to the cannonball ever more pointedly. Its physical form may have left the cropped scene in front of us, but the idea of a cannonball is more present than ever via its absence. An absence we only perceive because we have not seen the cannonball-shaped hole filled. What else is absent? What if something was removed from the scene before the camera even started rolling? Or perhaps something was captured and the footage has subsequently been edited, erasing the documentation of previous events, and, for that matter, future events in the context of the recording. And how can we be sure that our perception of an image isn't manipulated or tainted by the absence of certain objects, perhaps a hairpin, a window, an elephant, or a cannonball? And now the cannonball is back. If we take the previous scene with the cannonball to be the original one, then is this one staged, even though the same cannonball has been placed in the same position at less than a minute's interval? Is it in fact the same cannonball? We suspect that it is, but perhaps it is a copy of the previous one, a copy of a copy, or a sister copy of the initial one, both taken from a common mold. Does it actually matter if this cannonball is a different one to the one shown before? Perhaps the initial cannonball was in some way special, or certain connotations, or was crucial to a narrative of some kind, and this new one is an imposter. Was the initial cannonball truly the initial cannonball? I can tell you that it is the same one as the one before. But now this one is a different one. But, as said before, does it change anything? Of course now it does, but had I not told you, or had I not introduced the idea that there may be more than one plaster copy of the cannonball, would you have reached the same doubt independently? Is it even correct to refer to this pathetic attempt at a plaster cannonball as a cannonball? Or perhaps the fact that I have referred to it as a cannonball 23 times makes it a cannonball, 24. We may be at risk of confusing the copy with the real thing, a representation with reality. This is a moving image, and therefore you are waiting for what will happen in the future. In appearance, it is not dissimilar to a still, though, which would cause you to ask about the past of the scene. What series of events led to this image, and what is about to happen? That was about to happen, and now has. But what happened before I started filming, or even arrived at this location? Is it important? With the sudden appearance of many cannonballs, our fears regarding the duplicity of cannonball copies has been confirmed. The story has changed dramatically. There is now a blatant allusion to something out of frame. Where did they come from? The increase in their number may allude to a conflict, a plaster copy conflict fresh from the mould, or a whole garrison and arsenal full of plaster copies. But why do cannonballs, plaster or not, make us think of war or conflict? Perhaps you are only drawing this parallel because I refer to them as cannonballs. What if I had called them plaster spheres? As we now return to the beginning of our story, it seems that quite a lot of the scene, both conceptually and physically, is out of frame. So much has been alluded to, or referenced, which was not present at the beginning. Perhaps there are some concepts, or meanings, that are not self-evident in an image, some sort of connotations that we bring with us to a scene. The documentation is, of course, objective, isn't it? What if there is an elephant just out of shot? Isn't there always a possible elephant lurking just at the edge of the frame? This cropped scene excludes so much, so we can only contemplate, imagine, and discuss that which is not shown, even though it affects how we see the image no end. But what is excluded now?